Bincang Kopi. Dari kopi, jadi cerita. Dipersembahkan oleh Pillow Coffee.
Selamat datang di Bincang Kopi bersama dengan saya Dian dan ditemani oleh operator Ibu Maria dan Bung Zaki. Pada kesempatan ini kami mengundang salah satu bisa dibilang ini ya pengusaha atau pebisnis kopi yang sukses. Kedai kopinya juga menjadi rumah para juara, yaitu Aston Utan. Halo bro, bagaimana kabar bro?
Hi man, good, thank you.
Kegiatan lo apa nih belakangan nih?
Aduh, biasanya sih sama aja ya gue. Aku tuh sehari-hari tuh pasti mikirin industri kopi atau bisnis kopi. Jadi nggak pernah statik meskipun di satu industri ini udah mungkin belum selama you ya, tapi udah lumayan lah ya. Common Ground saja udah 5 tahun lebih kan, 5,5 tahun. Terus sebelum itu ada Pandava kan, itu aja 2 tahun. Jadi dari gua, Yanto sama Yoshi pertama mulai itu mungkin 9 tahunan kali ya.
9 tahun ya?
Ya cukup lama sih, lumayan.
Hampir 1 dekade tahun itu. Gak kerasa ya?
Iya, dari rambut lu panjang, botak, pendek, yoi.
Perhitungan waktunya seperti itu ya?
Yoi.
Rambut.
Ya kan kita juga di karir kita kan kita lebih banyak ingat apa ya, siapa yang kita bertemu, you know what I mean, in the industry, siapa yang masih ada, siapa yang udah gak ada, siapa yang udah ganti role-nya juga, kayak ya order lama pun juga begitu. Kan ada yang sebelum kita juga kan ya, gitu, yang banyak itu. Orang sekarang tuh nggak kenal itu siapa gitu, kayak Mas Adi Carop, I don't even know how to spell his name so long, Caropeka, blah blah blah. And then obviously Henry's still around, Mbak Mira. I mean she's still very active, but you have a lot of people who back in the day was strong part of the coffee industry, but now maybe a lot of the newer generation have no idea who that is gitu ya kan, which is it sad? I don't know, maybe maybe a little bit, because maybe I feel like one day that people gonna forget about me, right? People gonna forget about you, right? They just Kal Jasin.
Lu punya kekhawatiran seperti itu, Don? Orang bakal melupakan lo.
Yeah, I think so gitu. Karena menurut gua tuh everybody, because our industry is so young, right? Coffee industry is old. Specialty coffee industry is very young. Third wave, fourth wave, whatever you want to call it. Still very young. Jadi dari our infancy until now juga we were born like 10 years ago, pretty much. And then now we're still babies learning how to crawl, not even walking yet, right? That's how shitty we are still, right? Compared to the whole coffee industry or F&B we're still very tiny, very small gitu. And in my experience too, you need founders, or you need key people or influential people to carry and build and shape an industry, ya kan? Gitu. I mean, why do we study history? You know, right? Why do we study history in school? Why do we remember people? Why do we put people's name in airports and streets, right? So we can remember what they did, because they had a very significant contribution to shaping our
industry,
present, our country, our industry, or whatever. Kan? I mean, there's a sort of legacy, ya kan? Gitu. And if we do not remember where we came from, where will we know where to go a lot of times? Gitu. It's you know what they say, history repeats itself, right?
Lu sendiri pengen dikenang sebagai apa Ton dalam industri kopi ini?
That's a good question actually. Gue juga sering
bertanya-tanya gitu.
Karena menurut gue tuh kayak lu juga sebagai orang di industri ini juga, satu lu mau jadi siapa atau apa ya gitu. Okay, you can make a successful company, right? Very difficult, challenging, but not impossible. You can make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. We fucked up. We made mistakes, right? I'm sure you've made many mistakes, right? Tapi you tend to find your place after so many mistakes seharusnya, gitu, right? And then you learn from your mistakes, and then you correct it, and you do better. gitu. That's the idea, and that's usually how it works gitu. But in my experience juga, the industry has given us a lot of things, and we also have to give back to the industry, dong, ya kan gitu, because it's like, you build what this industry has built as well gitu. Lu ada kontribusi juga gitu. You're not just a lone ranger trying to, be Superman and, be the industry juga. That's impossible. You cannot achieve everything by yourself. So everybody has a role gitu. Meskipun kita competitors, tapi tetap aja we all have a mission and a role to build the industry, right? Because as we know, the specialty coffee industry, this building theme is very prominent. Maksud gua tuh, lu mau ke negara apa, that idea is there, right? In the specialty coffee industry, there's always this drive or this mission to improve the industry and its producers, farmers, baristas, blah 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 blah.
Stakeholder yang lain juga gitu ya.
Exactly. Lu kemana aja gitu. Lu mau ke negara yang maju, negara yang belum maju, yang negara even di Afrika or in like Asian countries that are not as maju as kita. We have these ideals. We have this thing that we all carry together, right? Gitu. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to help to educate customers about better quality coffee. And better quality coffee will always come down to, or always start with, the farmer. Yeah, I mean that's universal knowledge, gitu. And if the farmer can produce better quality coffee, and we can help show that quality is better, and have customers pay a higher price for them, then eventually that higher price will go down also to the farmer. To improve the lives of farmers. Because let's face it, most farmers are not very wealthy, ya kan gitu, especially in poor underdeveloped countries too. It's worse than many other agricultural jobs gitu. Karena it's very manual, very very manual, especially the cherry picking, not super manual. So how do we, that in every coffee company, in my especially coffee, in what I think is, itu selalu harus ada tim itu gitu. This is one of the foundations of your business or your brand or who you are if you're a cool barista. That is a core foundation. If that's not there, then I don't see why you're in this industry. It's just like, what are you? You're just here to make money, like that's not specialty coffee.
Jadi lu pengen dikenang sebagai apa akhirnya?
I don't know, right? I don't know.
Okay.
That's a good question. Yeah. Okay. So I was thinking juga kayak, we've got a good growing company. It can always be better, right? But it's not bad. We've got a great team. We've got great people. I've got great partners. How do we help grow the industry juga gitu, right? And if we grow the industry, it will grow us, etc., etc., etc. gitu. I mean, there are many ways, but I'm not sure what is the right way gitu. Ya kan? The easiest, fastest way to be remembered is to be a champion, in my opinion. Yeah, obviously, right? Competition, right? Right? So that is something, of course I consider too. I mean, obviously my team and my company, we all have won a few championships gitu. We've done a lot of good things in that arena, and kita selalu we always had a spirit of competition yang very high. We're competitive people. What can I say? We love to win. We want to win. We challenge anybody who wants to, compete with us. I think competition only makes us better, right? But eventually, every year there's a new champion. Right?
Yeah.
It's like kalau World Cup tuh masih 4 tahun, man. Kan? Jadi you're world champions for 4 years, gitu. Lama, gitu. Ini like every year there's a
setiap tahun ada perlombaan.
Which in my opinion, I get it, right? I mean, it makes it more relevant, and then you get a WBCs every year too, and coffee industry always grows through these competitions and exhibitions and stuff gitu. Is good. Cuman cepet, menurut gua is very fast gitu. Orang kayak cepet lupa juga gitu. I mean, do you remember who was champion 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Do people know who Dodi Samsura is now?
Bahkan gue pernah nanya juga tuh, Ton, lu masih ada yang kenal dengan Pak Agus gitu kan?
Iya, Pak Agus gue masih kenal.
Maksudnya banyak juga orang belum tahu gitu ternyata. Padahal itu juara kan?
he's another legendary figure, but now who knows? Where is he? I mean, well, we know where he is, but nobody really knows who he is.
Makanya lu gimana?
He the reason why I remember him and the reason why I always remember him is because he's a champion, but he never says he's a champion. And he's always super hardworking, super disciplined. Because he helped coach Yoshi for the first time.
Mas Agus dia?
Yes, buat ke WBC gitu. So technical skill and everything, he's like super gitu. But again, like you said, nobody knows, right?
Yeah.
Gue juga sempet nanya kayak,
lu tau Agus gitu ya?
Gue juga sempet nanya. I didn't know if there was ever a female champion. Tapi ternyata ada.
Yeah.
There was one Indonesian.
Mbak Siti itu.
Yeah. I've never met her before. I didn't even know until
dikasih tahu gitu ya.
Iya, dikasih tahu gitu. Gue sempet nanya juga di I forgot Instagram or something. Mbak Mira bilang ada ini. I'm like, oh, okay.
Pertama
wow.
itu kan.
Udah tahun I don't know man, early 2000s or something. I don't know lah gitu. So again, these things, right? It's the industry moves so quickly and fluidly that I'm afraid a lot if we move too fast. We sort of we're not finished putting our foundation, and then we move too fast. And yeah, if we move too fast without foundation juga bisa hancur kan gitu. So it's a good question. Honestly, I don't know.
Lu gak tahu jawabannya lah ya gimana ya. Tapi kalau mungkin secara pribadi lu mungkin gak bisa jawab. Tapi kalau CG sendiri, lu pengen dikenang sebagai apa tuh CG? Kan kalau juara udah jelas ya. Banyak orang tahu bahwa CG itu rumahnya para juara.
Iya.
Karena terlalu banyak sekali juara dari sana ya. Setiap tahun selalu ada. Dan lintas kategori juga ya. Mulai dari barista, seni latte, bahkan uji cita rasa gitu ya. Semua ada. Apakah itu salah satu impian lu juga pengen dikenang lewat sebagai juara? CG nih ya kita ngomong.
Iya, menurut gue sih ya itu udah terjadi lah gitu ya kan. Karena ya kita punya resume udah jauh sama yang lain gitu. And I'm saying that not because I'm trying to be sombong atau apa, but it's true. Gitu. You can see our trophies, it's there. I put all in one place gitu. Tapi for me sih, yes, there's a part of me and us yang kita tuh very proud kan. Maksudnya kita, we've done a lot. We've made a lot of sacrifices. We've worked really hard. You know, we try to develop as many relationships as we can. We train very hard to be able to win championships. Training until midnight and banyak deh pokoknya. Done so many things to
yang lu korbanin banyak lah di tim ini gitu ya.
Especially my partners Yanto sama Yoshi even more ya kan. Karena mereka sangat aktif di competition and coaching. Jadi there's so many things there. Cuman to be honest with you, the trophies primary value for us now, sebenarnya all piala and prestasi and everything, it's not for public knowledge sebenarnya. It's not like kita mau pamerin kita House of Champions atau apa gitu. It's not gitu. Sebenarnya those pieces of wood painted in gold and colored in gold is just a small token of who we are and our culture and where we came from gitu. Jadi the trophies is not as much for my customers or my competitors to see, but it's for my staff to see. You understand? It's to inspire them that if they work here and follow the same paths as our champions or our past champions, maybe one day they can get there.
Makanya banyak juga orang yang lamar ke tempat lu pengen jadi juara sebenarnya tujuannya ya.
Maybe 8 out of 10 people. And gue personally
bukan pengen kerja tapi pengen jadi juara gitu ya.
And gue personally tuh sampai sekarang tuh masih pegang interview. Semua barista yang masuk harus lewat gue. Ya, gue sama Yanto tuh biasanya gue lah gitu. And gue kan interview mereka, gue udah ada template kan, gue mau nanya apa. Gue sempat kasih multiple choice question juga. 8 out of 10 people mau jadi
juara
barista, gitu, ya kan, or juara whatever gitu, right? And then when I read I'm like, jadi the good thing, the positive thing about that is kita tuh selalu atau lebih sering dari nggak dapat first choice in the pool of applicants yang pokoknya banyak pilihan gitu ya kan. Jadi obviously kita coba pilih yang paling promising, potensi paling bagus ya kan. Mau dari backgroundnya di kopi atau nggak di kopi, atau dia lulusan S1, adapun S2 ataupun SMK tapi udah di industri udah lama, anak-anaknya udah lama kerja misalnya di Starbucks atau apa. Pokoknya
Ya, potensi
people who
lah.
are serious about this profession. Banyak juga orang yang sampah kan ya, maksudnya kayak nothing in their CV that's worth considering, right? Because I can't interview like the whole world gitu. Gua harus pilah dulu kan CV gitu. Karena CV it shows you kayak sebenarnya your direction in life itu kira-kira mau kemana gitu. Karena I'm not trying to make champion and then sell champion gitu ya kan. Gua harus cari barista or coffee professional yang bisa jalan satu arah dengan tujuan perusahaan gue gitu. The needs and the wants of the company will fulfill the needs and wants of the barista and back and forth. It's a symbiotic relationship gitu, right? Gitu. You become a champion as a product of our school or our culture or our way of doing things gitu. And at the same time, yeah, of course, your name is always associated with us because we built you. This year aja, a lot of people, this year's barista championship final aja, a lot of people were like, again, you know, okay, good, okay, CG, 3 dari 6 finalis dari CG gitu. So gue bilang enggak sih, 4. You know, Arif used to work for us for a long time. Who do you think trained him? He trained at the competition for us like 5 years or 4 years gitu ya kan. The guys, we know that guy inside out, right? And I'm sure a lot of his basics and everything too, of course dari kita gitu. So that's not, it's not odd kan gitu. If you see Brewers Cup, right? Obviously Harrison didn't win, tapi Harrison when he won dulu he trained with us every day, all day, right? We helped source his coffee, we helped roast his coffee, obviously training for the competition gitu. The guy who won, Ang's boy, excellent job, great coffee. Who coached him? Hero used to work for us.
Bagian keluarga CG gitu ya.
Right. So obviously, even if you're in the company or you've been in the company, you're not in the company anymore, you follow a certain path that we have.
Yang lu bangun tadi.
Yeah, gitu. Maksudnya there's a formula there yang we follow and we do that emang but it works if you do it right. And honestly, like most of it is lu harus discipline and work hard and practice like crazy. But obviously that's just one of the main things. But like I said, going back, I think a lot of times my role is not really spotlight role gitu, kayak like a barista champion or something gitu. Cuman terakhir ini gue lebih terobsesi dengan gimana gue bisa develop barista, profesi barista itu. Karena menurut gue barista tuh emang it's not a desirable profession. Yeah, it's like worse than bartender, maybe the same as waiter, right?
Dari segi pendapatan mungkin maksudnya ya?
No, like respect.
Oh, okay.
Right. Obviously that comes with it too, right?
Dari segi respect yang lo masuk.
Yeah. Maksudnya, I mean, it's not just a problem in our country. Around the world kan gitu, kayak you know, if you're like a waitress or whatever, waiter, yeah, people look down on you gitu.
Beda sama bartender nih ceritanya kan, di berbagai negara emang dapat posisi yang lebih baik gitu.
Right, lebih fancy lah gitu ya kan, ada teknik, ada bla bla, ada skill, right? If you're a waiter, you don't typically need that much skill, they say gitu. Although I can argue that of course being a really good waiter you require a lot of skill actually gitu. But in general, it's just a job that is either a part-time job or a fill-in job, something yang is just buat sementara gitu. Itu pun juga bisa loncat-loncat ke tempat dan profesi yang lain kan. It's like if you're a salesperson in a boutique, right? Same shit, right? It's just people don't look at you, right? I mean, that's a problem because in our generation now, I wouldn't even say my generation, the generation now, mereka tuh lebih looking more for identity rather than pendapatan or money, in my opinion. Gitu. Karena menurut gue, they're looking for a purpose and identity, right? Like, what is my purpose in life? What am I supposed to do? What makes me happy? Gitu. It's not about how much I make. Of course, that's important, but not as important as what makes me happy. Gitu. And if they choose a profession that makes them happy but doesn't make them respect themselves, eventually things don't go well. You know what I mean? Gitu. Eventually they'll be like, they'll go back to identity crisis. Gitu, and they'll be depressed and they'll do stupid shit. Gitu, or they won't have a career path, right? And a lot of times, I find these people, because I interview these people, right? They're like early 20s, they just finished school, or early teens, like they don't know what the fuck they want to do, man. It's the same as me, like even when abis gue kuliah, gue tahu kayak misalnya gue emang udah have great education, good background, lucky to be born in a good family, but I didn't know what I was gonna do. I didn't know what I love to do, gitu, you know, right? I had no idea, kayak clueless. Sampai gue juga, gue abis kuliah gue pulang balik Indo, gue juga ada jeda mungkin 6 bulan gitu.
Blank gitu ya.
Gue interview kerjaan, job di mana-mana, cuman gue kayak gak niat gitu tau nggak, karena gue nggak yakin apa ini bener ya gitu, is this the right one or not gitu. After 6 months, nyokap gue at that time was like, oh man, fuck this, you're not doing anything, you just get a job, go there gitu. I got an interview for you, you don't even need to interview, you already have the job, you do it gitu. Jadi my first job was actually as di kontraktor gitu. And I was in a building site gitu. One of my projects dulu was Pacific Place. Sebelum itu bangun, gue dari sisi kontraktor, gue cuman control project gitu.
Berapa lama itu lo kerja di situ?
Probably 8 months until I realized I need to find a better job.
Tapi omong-omong sekarang bisnis yang lo kelola ada berapa, Ton?
Gue sih tetap fokus di common ground sih, di kopi gitu. Karena like I said, when I found my passion, that's when I knew that this is, even when we fucked up on our first business and went under, I knew this is what I wanted to do. Gitu. Or either I knew, I didn't know, but I was intrigued. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's like a certain curiosity yang kayak, apa ya? A lot of people, I describe it as people who have gone into specialty coffee. Itu kayak loncat ke jurang yang di bawahnya you don't know itu ada
apa gitu.
Ada apa dan lu nggak tahu di bawahnya tuh kayak jurang terus atau ada
ya berhenti gitu ya.
Iya.
Landasan.
You
gitu.
literally just dive in. You don't even know what's like. You don't even know that you've dived in kadang-kadang. Kadang-kadang you're just walking.
Gelinding aja gitu ya, gelindingnya gitu kan ngalir.
Iya, contohnya a lot of coffee professionals yang misalnya they tried to, let's say, make a cafe, which is the first thing that comes into mind, didn't work out. They try something else, but still they come back to coffee, but maybe in another capacity. You understand what I mean? Or coffee professionals as well, tadinya jadi barista, udah merasa they learned everything, maybe they could move on into another industry, but they can't. They end up in coffee again, just in another capacity.
Jadi roaster, jadi apa mungkin yang lain.
Exactly. Which is that menurut gua tuh if there's one thing certain about life, the good thing about specialty coffee is that, you know what I mean? Like once you're in, it's very hard to come out. It's very difficult. So a lot of times when I hear about people yang keluar dari industry, it makes me kayak bingung. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Kayak because as much like even if my business didn't do this well or somehow went under or something, I don't know if I could do a business in another industry. You understand? Karena there's something about the industry and the product that is just you cannot stop.
Makanya selalu membuat Pandava, lu tetap lanjut gitu ya.
Correct. So when we found Pandava, basically we ran for about 3 years kan, and bener-bener waktu itu tuh kayak ngasal abis gitu, kayak bener-bener we didn't know what the fuck we were doing.
Kebayang gue maksud lo ngasal itu tuh.
Gue sendiri yang design that place kan gitu. I have no interior designer background. I have no interior background. I was like, this is kind of cool. Let's put that there. Right? This is a nice color. We'll use that, right? Gitu. Jadi it was like a total disaster, right? Gitu. But the three of us were like, we were young. We didn't know what we were doing too. So we were just like, oh yeah, that sounds cool. Let's do that.
Keren gitu ya.
But then like down the road kita lihat kayak buku-bukunya, like our finances, and we're like, oh shit, this doesn't look good. We need to do something about this, man. It's like, yeah.
3 tahun itu ya.
3 tahun.
Disaster 3 tahun ya.
Belajar 3 tahun.
Jadi tuh kayak kita selalu bilang tuh kayak MBA loh enggak. Kita belajar di sana gitu. Ya, kita juga spend a lot of money to learn. Ya udah gitu.
Dan lu menganggap lulus di Pandava ini akhirnya. Maksud gua kalau itu sebagai sekolah gitu ya, master lu berhasil dari Pandava itu kegagalannya lu bisa banyak yang lu petik.
I think so, yeah. I mean, if you think about it that way, yes. I mean, kalau ngomong lulus sih enggak, obviously it's dead, right? Gitu. Cuman menurut gua, obviously the things that you learn was always something that you carry gitu. And another thing that we learned was that you never stop learning, right? You just don't. No matter how old you get, no matter how many cafes you open, you never stop learning. You always do better. You always strive to do better. You always do more gitu. Jadi, one of the things that I personally like to do, I'm still very involved with the cafe design. Kayak misalnya gue bikin cafe, design itu gue masih hands on banget gitu. Even though we work in the interior designer, tapi gue selalu coba study the customer experience along with the design of the cafe, ya kan? Dengan apa yang kita ada, how do we maximize it to a purpose, right? And the number one purpose is to be effective or enjoyable for the consumer, gitu. But again, different area requires different mission too, gitu. Jadi misalnya City Walk is an office district area. You have a lot of office people. They only have 1 hour break. Yeah, they gotta be in and out real quick gitu ya kan. They're not the type of people yang banyak nongkrong, tapi meeting sih iya gitu. So our seats are not like sofa seats, but they're always a little bit high. Dining table, not super comfortable, but good enough. Lighting is bright, easy. Location is easy. Service is quick and effective gitu.
Dan tahun juga pengaruh ya waktu itu ya.
Yes.
Belum seramai sekarang kan.
Exactly.
Tapi mahal juga ya belajar lu Ton ya.
Lumayan.
Pandava 3 tahun udah Pak. Mahal itu. Slayer ya.
Oh, Slayer sih gue belajar 2 kali, man. Gue beli mesin tuh 2 kali gue
mahal itu, mahal banget lah itu. Terlalu mahal kayaknya. Untuk belajar sesuatu kesalahan ya.
Tapi zaman dulu tuh ya terhitung mahal sih. Cuman kalau kita lihat sekarang
udah biasa toh.
Iya.
Biasa.
Tapi seharga PB loh.
Zaman dulu ya kan kursnya juga beda kan.
Bener.
Lu kalau bicara bisnis, lu mulai tertarik bisnis tuh sejak usia berapa Ton?
Gue mungkin karena orang tua gue dua-duanya emang business people, right? Businessman. Jadi dari kecil gue selalu di-groom ke sana.
Oh, emang udah diarahin gitu.
Iya, jadi gue merasa I never had a choice. It just happened to go that way karena gue udah didokterin kayak gitu sejak kecil gitu. And nyokap gue especially is a big influence in my professional life and my personal life. Tapi she's a very strong businesswoman, entrepreneur. Dia pun nggak lulus kuliah gitu, tapi dia bisa make something of herself gitu. Jadi she's very hard gitu. Dia selalu emang arahin gue selalu ke sana gitu. Makanya I went to business school. I knew I'm going to do business. I didn't know what business I wanted to go into. You understand what I mean? That was my age 22 to 29, 28 is just like like I didn't know what I was going to do. So I just find experience everywhere in different jobs that I could gitu. Luckily I did some experience yang benar-benar impact my professional life in a very positive way before coffee gitu. But up until that time, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I knew business, I get it. You make any business, there's a set of rules that you need to do, right? accounting, finance, marketing, operation too, it all runs a very similar way. There's a structure to it. But finding your passion and finding what you want to do every day of your life is a different story. It's not like you can read a textbook. It's like, oh, I want to do this gitu kan, nggak bisa gitu. You have to sort of fall into it or sort of find it, or sometimes it finds you. I don't know. It's not for you to decide sometimes. Sometimes it just happens by itself, gitu, right?
Itu lu diarahin juga untuk meneruskan usaha keluarga waktu awal-awal.
Yes. Jadi dari sisi bokap, dia one of 7 kids, siblings, dan dari 7 itu cowok cuma 2. So this is a very traditional Chinese type of structure family. Cowok cuma 2. My uncle for one reason or another does not work. Jadi my dad yang ngurusin the family business gitu. And I am the only son from my dad gitu.
Cowok gitu.
Iya, jadi ya secara
mau nggak mau jadi penerus terah gitu ya.
Iya, like
otomatis
that,
lah ya.
Gitu. Kandidat nomor 1 kan. Cuman because of I found my passion in another business gitu, or another industry.
Bidang gitu ya.
Ya, jadi gue emang gak tertarik untuk menerusin my family business gitu.
Respon ayahmu gimana tuh? Ada tentangan dong pasti, atau emang tidak ada malah?
I don't know. Sebenarnya susah dibaca kadang-kadang bokap gitu.
Oke.
Agak pasif agresif gitu kan. Enggak sih. Tapi dia sih menurut gue dia oke aja gitu.
Tapi karena dengan bisnis lu sekarang yang kopi, lu terjun di kopi ini, orang tua dukung Ton? Dua-duanya? Dukung ya Kak? Untung ya berarti.
Iya. Tapi mereka juga emang suka dan seneng gue bisa bikin bisnis sendiri.
Daripada tadi 6 bulan nganggur di rumah ya. Ini lo ada kegiatan gitu.
Atau kerja sama orang lain gitu. Mereka tuh emang dari dulu arahinnya ke sana gitu.
Intinya kerja gitu ya, apapun itu gitu ya.
Gitu. Coba bangun bisnis sendiri, coba mandiri sendiri gitu tuh. You have to try as best as you can gitu. That's their goal gitu. Mau masuk bisnis keluarga or whatever, ya boleh aja. Cuman you harus ada sesuatu yang lu bangun sendiri istilahnya gitu. Mereka juga nggak suka misalnya yang
memanfaatkan koneksi gitu.
Bener. Apa tuh?
Harus,
polusi ya.
Ya nepotisme.
Nepotisme.
Ini harus dari bawah gitu ya. Makanya lu dulu juga ditendang sama mak lu ya, kalau lu nggak kerja gitu. Gue inget lu cerita sampai lu jual sabun, odol gitu ya, ke warung-warung kecil pinggir jalan. Naik motor gitu ya, hujan-hujanan gitu. Seorang Aston lo. Lu bisa cerita Ton?
Iya, gue kerja di Unilever.
Gue pengen tahu tuh Ton, cerita lu gimana? Mungkin pendengar juga banyak.
Unilever tuh, gue kan setelah kerjaan gue yang real estate itu, kan at that time, gue banyak belajar ya. Cuman gue merasa gue nggak pakai otak gue gitu ya kan. Udah jauh-jauh sekolah S1, tapi otak nggak dipakai, sayang gitu kan. Otak gue juga mulai bego gitu. Jadi gue cari kerjaan yang mungkin next one gue bisa apply apa yang gue belajar di sekolah untuk that job gitu. Jadi at that time, yaudah deh, gue emang interested in marketing gitu or branding. Jadi gue coba cari kerjaan yang di perusahaan luar lah istilahnya gitu, tapi masih di Jakarta gitu, karena gue tahu gue harus belajar ilmu tapi di market Indonesia gitu. Karena kalau gue mau bikin bisnis kan gue mau bikin bisnis di sini ya kan gitu. Kayak gue cari pengalaman atau kerja di Singapura, tapi kan marketnya Singapura. Meskipun gue belajar ilmu perusahaan itu di sana ya bagus, cuman marketnya beda ya gitu. Itu pikiran gue gitu. Ya udah gue apply ke beberapa tempat, salah satu tuh Unilever gitu. And Unilever tuh as you know has been around for a long time, right? Already 70 plus years gitu di Indonesia. Jadi bisa dibilang tuh meskipun perusahaan dari Inggris atau Belanda, tapi udah Indonesia banget gitu.
Indonesia lama
Indonesia banget kan ya. Ngomong Blue Band, Rinso, Indonesia banget, Pepsodent kan ya kan. Banyak orang tuh pergi beli deterjen ya bilang ada Rinso nggak ya, Rinsonya di mana ya?
Mereknya apapun gitu ya.
Gitu. Jadi that was one of the companies that I applied to, and luckily abis a few interviews gue diterima di sana, and gue memilih untuk join that company too, because menurut gue tuh that company is very unique gitu, dari not only dari segi business performance-nya, tapi the size and also the culture gitu. Menurut gue tuh budaya di sana tuh beda gitu. Dia corporate tapi masih very family juga gitu, which is odd kan gitu. Because I applied to some like consulting firm yang pakai dasi sama suit and everything, and it's like very like numbers oriented, kaku gitu kan gitu, and I thought that was really boring, right? Gitu. I was like fuck, right? Jadi I was excited to go to Unilever because menurut gue kayaknya asik gitu, unik, kantornya juga unik, setiap lantai itu desainnya beda-beda gitu. Zaman dulu kantor mereka yang di Gatot Subroto, jadi unik deh. So luckily I got accepted there. A lot of people in the company also had a lot of doubts gitu about me gitu, karena nih anak yang profil gini
bisa nih gitu ya. Mau nih becek-becekan gitu ya.
Iya, kayaknya nggak bakal lama gitu ya.
Mau ke pasar nih gitu kan.
Jadi the program is called the Management Trainee MT. A lot of big corporations have this program. So if you are a management trainee in marketing, jadi lu kan lulus di hire. Cuman sebenarnya lu masih 1 tahun tuh kayak probationary period. Jadi probationary periodnya tuh
setahun ya?
Ya, dan dalam 6 bulan lu ada tes, lu ada presentasi satu, which you do a project, and then the next 6 months another one. Jadi the last one you have to sit in is with a director, and the director approves, then you are a permanent employee. But you have to pass these things. But for a marketing trainee program, you spend the first year in sales and the second year in marketing. Makes sense, right?
Tesnya apa waktu itu?
Let me explain this for you. Jadi that part is lu kalau misalnya lu punya brand nih, lu pegang brand, ya kan, lu responsible to grow the brand, to achieve sales targets, to improve what people think about your brand. Ya lu harus tahu gimana jual produk lu dong gitu. Lu jangan misalnya duduk di kantoran setiap hari cuman nunjuk-nunjuk dan lain-lainnya kan gitu. Lu harus benar-benar tahu di lapangan tuh
bagaimana gitu ya.
Bagaimana dan persepsi orang tentang brand lu gimana ya kan gitu. Karena let's face it, Unilever sells consumer good products, right? So it's mostly to people with B or C economic status class gitu, right? Yang pemakaian setiap hari gitu. So we have to know gitu. And most of the places that we sell a lot of these products is not actually in the very urban area gitu. A lot of it is in the rural area, di luar kota gitu.
Sampai ke Bekasi bahkan ya.
Gitu. Yeah, exactly. Jadi it makes sense for the management trainees to get a lot of exposure on where we sell our products gitu. So my first year in my year in sales itu dibagi dua sesi gitu. Satu di general trade. General trade itu pokoknya di-classify as any store yang nggak punya POS system. So it's not computerized. Yeah, so you're talking about your warung,
lontong gitu ya.
Your distributor, things like that yang in the rural areas. And then you have this GTMT, modern trade. So modern trade is with POS, with AC, your hypermart, supermarket, Indomaret, Alfamart. So I spent my first 6 months in modern trade, which is, to be honest, very easy gitu, because we would only meet with our distributor in the head office gitu. Jadi petinggi-tingginya siapa Hypermart atau Watson or whatever itu yang we would meet and deal with gitu. But and then we would obviously kita ke toko, kita lihat gimana kita bisa bikin produk kita lebih cantik ya gitu, menarik gitu dan lain-lainnya. Actually, the interesting part is in GT, in general trade. And in general trade, Unilever, like many other companies, they use a distribution system gitu. Maksudnya they work with distributors to distribute the products. Kan nggak mungkin dari gudang Unilever kirim ke setiap toko gitu. Apalagi misalnya satu pasar ya.
Banyak
pasar becek tuh ada kira-kira 50 sampai 70. Gitu. Jadi itu kan effortnya luar biasa. So we usually work together with distributors, and these distributors cover a certain amount of area. So gue ditempatkan di distributor di Bekasi, gitu, Bekasi Timur at that time.
Waktu itu ya.
Jatiwaringin area. Gitu. Jadi I spent about 6 months there, and within that 6 months, you're right. Every day I would go with the salesman on a motorcycle untuk jualan produk gitu.
Apa yang dijual waktu itu? Semua lah ya, odor, rinso, sabun gitu ya.
Tapi kebanyakan obviously di pasar kan a lot of people they have a very little basket size kan. So their spending is not as much, but they spend almost every day. Jadi misalnya beli rinso, sabun atau shampoo tuh mungkin setiap hari atau sekali setiap 2 hari gitu. Dan mereka belinya saset. Karena ya uang mereka seharian cuma segitu gitu. Jadi itu kan transactionnya banyak, tapi kecil-kecil gitu. Jadi
pendekatan lu gimana tuh Ton untuk menawarkan ke mereka tuh?
Awal-awalnya sih parah banget kan. Apalagi bahasa Inggris, bahasa Indo gue yang udah hancur kan. Dari dulu lebih hancur lagi, man. Gue gak tahu, lebih parah lagi, lebih kaku lagi kan.
Gue mau ngebayang gimana tuh dulu tuh awal lu?
Dulu di Unilever malah gue dikatain cinta Lora anjing.
Kan dia ngebayangin ke warung-warung kecil pinggir jalan menawarkan gitu dengan logat Inggris yang medok gitu ya. Nah, gimana? Gue penasaran pendekatan lu gimana?
Gue sering banget di iniin juga di pasar di apa tuh? Diledekin gitu, digodain gitu. Dia selalu bilang apa kayak cowok putih banget sih.
Udah becek-becek gitu ya.
Ganteng-ganteng kok ngapain jualan gituan gitu. Gue bisa aja mbak.
Malah digodain loh Tonnya.
Jadi seru sih waktu itu. And ya gue tahu this was gonna happen. And gue ambil this opportunity. A lot of people just saying dia mana mau atau kayak bla 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 bla. Karena pernah terjadi dulu juga orang with my background disuruh do this and then
nyerah gitu ya.
Bukan, bokap nyokapnya kalau gila anak gue disuruh jualan bla 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 di
setuju
pasar
gitu
udah
ya.
Jauh gitu. Terus gue cerita nyokap dong gitu. Nyokap bilang bagus.
Malah bilang bagus
gitu. Oke mah. Gimana lagi mau dapat pengalaman kayak gini gitu.
Iya benar
juga sih. Jadi
malah nyokap malah dukung banget gitu ya.
Dukung. Karena nyokap gue itu dia mulai dari nol kan.
Okay.
Jadi menurut dia tuh ya nih anak tuh harus yang udah grow up very comfortable, very nyaman ya harus mulai experience life, right? Gitu. Life is not how you grew up. Life is something very different gitu. So that's a big reason why I am who I am today because of that experience too.
Itu ngebantu lu banget ya?
Iya, kan menurut gue dulu gue juga lumayan. Gue bukan orang yang apa tuh, yang sombong gitu. Gue merasa gue orang yang juga sebenarnya bisa mix sama banyak orang. Gue bukan orang yang
tertutup lah gitu.
Iya, dan gue bukan orang yang very confrontational or whatever. Gue lebih pasif gitu. Cuman buat gue that experience made me even more humble, even more down to earth. You understand what I mean? That's why when I see baristas today,
kebayang.
when I see baristas today, you know, and they come from obviously a background that is not as good as mine, and they're not as lucky as I am, but I went through more effort in my previous job and life than them. That makes me want to push them very hard, because if somebody like me can do that,
ya harusnya lo juga lebih
exactly gitu ya kan. Maksudnya I'm not desperate, right? But I work hard. You're desperate, you should work harder than me. right? I mean, that's the logic, right? If you want to move in life, lu mau maju, ya you gotta work for it, man. Nobody's gonna give it to you, right? You can find the right place to learn and the right place that will give you the right opportunities. But if you don't take that opportunity, then you got only yourself to blame. You understand? Gitu.
Bahkan lu dulu juga nawarin ke warung juga kayak nggak langsung Pak beli ini nggak gitu ya kan, kalau modern market lu juga lebih enak ngomong, tapi kalau yang ke bawah kan lu kayak bagaimana kabarnya Pak? Anaknya gimana? Banyak sekali, lama ya, nggak langsung ya kan?
Bener, small talknya tuh penting banget.
Bisa cerita tuh gimana tuh?
Nah itu gue very fortunate sih, karena waktu gue di general trade itu gue jadi di dalam hidup gue waktu masa kerja gue, especially di Unilever itu gue ada beberapa orang penting di hidup gue, yang kayak mentor. Ya jadi mereka tuh kayak bos gue, atau nggak langsung secara langsung bos gue, tapi mereka has a
mentor
big
gitu ya?
impact in my life and how I'm shaped professionally. Nah di Unilever sendiri dia ada satu salesman yang Arya, dia terkenal banget karena dia udah lama banget kerja di Unilever gitu. Namanya Bapak Suparyono. Lu bayang aja dengan nama yang kayak gitu kan, orang Jawa dan udah lama ya, hampir 30 tahun di Unilever.
30 tahun di Unilever.
Jadi dia dari orde zaman dulu dengan
lintas orde lah itu. Mengalami rezim berapa kali.
Jadi dia tuh dikenal sebagai one of the most original and old school salesman. Jadi sebenarnya dia bukan tipe manager sekarang yang lebih reliant on data, teknologi, bla 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 gitu, agak old school. Cuman with that type of old schoolness, dia pinter banget ngomong sama orang. Dia pinter banget membangun
merebut hati orang gitu ya.
Yeah, dude. Oh my god. So this guy, like I learned all that shit in school, right? Like accounting and finance and this is cool technology bullshit, whatever. But the original essence of becoming a salesman is being able to relate to another human being. If you want to sell something to somebody, you got to make a connection with that person, right? Because if you're a good salesman, you can sell a donut, a risol, a water. I could probably sell my underwear to somebody if I really wanted to. You know what I mean? You have to be able to do that. You can't do it with just one product, whether it's good or bad quality. You got to be able to sell it, right? And to be able to sell it means to be able to make a connection with somebody else. And unfortunately, that's a big thing a lot of baristas nowadays, they lack. They lack, and they always say, oh ya kan orang Jawa lebih sungkem atau lebih kayak nggak enakan gitu. You can't do that, right? Not where you work, where you're trying to sell a product or you're trying to sell a service. Like that is supposed to be beyond. You have to get beyond that. You have to be somebody else. You have to sell a product gitu. Because I'm sure if you're a salesman, when you come home and you're not working, you're not trying to sell anything, or you just want to shut up maybe and just sleep gitu. But when you're working, it's sort of like you have to put on a different face, a different mask, right? Because that's your job. That's what you have to do. Nah, for him, it came very naturally. So for him, he was such a natural salesman that it became his personality and his job. But it's amazing because so in Jakarta, sama Greater Jakarta area, there's the whole area is divided into two in terms of the sales. So there's West Jakarta and East Jakarta. And itu kan outside Jakarta juga kan, like Bekasi sampai Kerawang itu masih East gitu. And then the West is like sampai Banten, yeah, exactly. So out of he was so legendary that and itu kan kanvasnya bisa jauh dan lebar kan.
Waktu itu ya kanvasing lo.
Pasarnya tuh banyak gitu ya kan. It's not just one, right? Not just in the city, but out there tuh banyak juga pasar.
Satu pasarnya 70 lu bilang kan satu.
Iya, and itu pun udah ratusan pasar di area dia kan. Jadi you can imagine how many stores, right? Or how many warung gitu. Nah, itu it's well known that dia tuh di setiap pasar tuh tahu nama dia.
Pak Suparyono ini gitu ya.
That's how legendary he was gitu. And I would follow him around and see how he would, keep relationships, right? Very simple. Very simple. Number one thing he would always ask first is, he would usually remember their name, and then two, he would be like, keluarga kayak gimana, gitu, baik sehat semua, gitu. That's the number one. So everything that always we have in common with every human being is always family. And when you touch upon or ask somebody about their family, that means you kind of generally sort of care about them, right? It's not necessarily you, but it's your family, gitu. Because if your family's healthy, you should be fine too, right? Gitu. And family relationships in the Javanese, Indonesian culture is very important, right? We are family type of people. Gitu. So that's one of the tricks that he would do. And then eventually he would ask a few more personal questions and then ask about jualan produk Unilever gimana, ini gimana, apa yang bisa kita bantu, blah 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 blah. But his demeanor would always be very cool, very calm, kind of like that cool dad or cool grandpa vibe, right? Gitu. But he would be like, he would never show panic, he would never show anger. Even if one of his managers would do something wrong, dia selalu mendidiknya secara kebapaan banget.
Oke.
Jadi I learned a lot from him.
Itu yang akhirnya juga mempengaruhi karakter lu ya dalam membangun bisnis gitu ya. Yeah. Ini mungkin ada pengaruhnya dari nama Common Ground yang lu pilih itu?
To be honest with you, no. The reason why we pick Common Grounds is it's a learning from Pandava gitu.
Oh, dari Pandava malah.
Karena number one is I would always get questions about Pandava tuh apa sih gitu, namanya dari mana gitu. And I had to explain them really hard about sebenarnya ini Pandewa cuman bahasa Inggrisnya Pandava gitu, bla 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 gitu. And people like, okay, right gitu. Tapi at the end of the day kita juga at that time bikin konsep yang sebenarnya Indonesia cuman ada Westernnya gitu. Which honestly what we learned was people don't get it. You know what I mean? It's just too weird for them gitu. So that's why when we did our next cafe, it would be a very simple name and it would be very Western gitu. Karena gue lihat tuh, gue sering banget waktu di Pandava, gue lihat orang tuh bisa lewat Pandava, berhenti bentar, nengok lihat dalam, bingung dan lewat lagi. Ya. Ngerti nggak tuh?
Ya.
Jadi kayak gue lihat dari sana, kayak zaman waktu gue Unilever, gue pernah belajar beberapa studi customer yang datang ke supermarket dan behavior mereka. Jadi mereka taruh kamera di kepala mereka, terus ya you behave normal aja, tapi you belanja gitu. Dan kita study their every move. Why they do this? How long do they look at this particular shelf? How long do they look for a particular product or brand? How long do they spend in this aisle? Where do they go here? What makes their purchase decision?
Consumer behavior,
Consumer behavior, yes. In fact, in Unilever, we had a whole division just for consumer behavior, right? Which is very important. So then I realized that. I was like, fuck, why are so many people passing, right? Why are they like confused, right? Then I realized, it's like, oh, they don't know what the fuck this is, right? Yeah, they don't know if it's coffee, they don't know if it's food. They're like, why is it dark and red at the same time, right? It's just confusing, gitu. And people keep asking me that question about the brand. That means they don't get it, right? So next one, what we did is we wanted to make it very clear, very bright, even the interior design is super Western gitu. Jadi tanpa lo lihat brandnya aja, lo bisa ngeh, oh ini Western food atau Western style cafe gitu ya kan. Jadi that was our aim, because obviously our brand is not as good as Starbucks or let's say McDonald's. Kayak yang belum pernah aja udah tahu itu apa gitu, apalagi yang tahu ya kan gitu. So at that time we're like, oh, it turns out we're not cool, so people don't know who the fuck we are, so we have to get people to know, and that is still true until now. Even Common Grounds now, when I opened our second shop in PIM,
okay,
yeah, I learned that, hey man, people in the South don't know who the fuck we are. Gue kan anak selatan juga. I lived all my life di Pondok Indah. Jadi PIM tuh mall gue gitu. Dari SMP, SMA sampai sekarang gue
Akamsi lah ya lo ya.
Gue anak PIM banget gitu. Tapi gue baru abis gue buka toko di sana, nggak ada yang kenal brand gue juga gitu. Anjing. Jadi gue kan at that time kan yang di situ gue kan lagi rame kan, orang lagi ngomongin, oh ini yang punya Common Grounds. Tapi gue pikir kayak semua orang udah tahu satu kota, ternyata enggak kan. Makanya waktu di sana waktu kita bikin brandnya, kita kan dapat lokasi yang lumayan strategis kan, yang kelihatan dari mana, dari arah yang banyak gitu, dari beberapa arah. Jadi gue sengaja emang bikin cafe yang sangat terbuka, biar orang benar-benar bisa kelihatan banget. So it's not actually the most comfortable store, but it is the most visible. Gitu. I wanted people to get to know our brand. Gitu. But unfortunately, my dumbass, I made the logo in the column, right? And it's kind of semi-hidden. It's not like the other stores yang ada gede kayak fucking Marugame or like Bebek Bengil or some shit yang nggak, pokoknya jelas banget kan, dipakai lampu segala. Gue nggak bikin itu kan, gue bikin lebih kayak gue mau jadi cool, jadi gue taruh di kolom gitu. Tapi orang nggak gitu. Ini restoran apa ya? Orang sering banget nanya. Ini restoran apa? Ya? Terus kayak, lu buka di PIM ya? Gue buka di PIM di mana? Di atas gitu. Oke, gue kesana gitu. Terus ditelepon lagi, di mana ya bro? Gue gitu. Gue bilang, anjing. Jadi akhirnya gue tempel logo di belakang gitu. Yang nggak segede yang biasa, tapi ada lah kelihatan gitu. Lo nggak lihat dikit-dikit, common ground gitu ya kan.
Nah itu gimana Ton? Akhirnya lu bisa ngebangun merek lu jadi dikenal kayak sekarang nih?
Apa ya? Gue karena belajar dari experience gue yang di PIM itu, gue masih belum pede tuh brand gue terkenal sama banyak orang.
Masih belum pede ternyata.
Gue masih nggak yakin gitu. Kalau buat orang kopi sih udah pasti lah ya kan.
Maksudnya di luar kopi nih.
Nah itu karena market gue bukan orang kopi doang gitu. Dan seharusnya market kita secara industri
bocor harus gitu ya, keluar dari kopi juga gitu.
Iya harus agak ada mainstreamnya juga gitu. Nggak mungkin kecuali industri ini grow-nya very rapidly ya. Maksudnya kayak besok semua orang minum geisha gitu atau minum arabica yang 68 above every day gitu. It's not true, right? Jadi kita tetap harus ada mainstreamnya gitu. Kalau nggak, we will not survive as a business.
Itu apa yang membuat lu masih kurang gitu, ngerasa pede nih untuk publik luas terhadap merek lu?
Karena menurut gua ya belum banyak yang tahu aja gitu. Maksudnya
kendalanya lu gimana ngatasinnya?
Open more shops.
Makanya salah satu target lu juga membuka berbagai tempat nih ya.
Karena gini, another sad story. One thing that this past 1 or 2 years, this is obviously before WBC last year juga yang di Boston. Gue merasa why is it that our industry terakhir ini gue merasa nggak grow. Why do I say that? Is because in the first 3 years of our business, lots of people came to me asking about, I want to open a coffee shop. I want to do this, I want to do that. And they're inspired and they're passionate about doing it gitu, seriously, ya kan. But I see the last 2 or 3 years not so much gitu ya. And then gue juga notice di kompetisi kan selalu ada ada fairnya gitu kan di local di IBC. Gue notice the past 2 or 3 years tuh yang datang sama-sama aja orangnya, nggak menambah. The first few years tuh exciting, lots of new people, people wanted to find out, people wanted to explore gitu. Cuman
lama-lama orang itu lagi ya.
Same people man.
4L ya, lu lagi gitu.
Exactly. Which is not good. Not good. That means our industry isn't growing. It's not attracting more people. You know what I mean gitu. And I'm not just saying the money side, I'm saying the passion side, right? Money side pasti ada aja gitu. The passion side is becoming less and less. That's why it became very alarming to me. Lu lihat juga yang kompetisi juga sama aja man. Not much difference. It's not good. That's not a sign of growth.
Ngomong-ngomong soal kondisi tadi itu ya, berarti lu punya pendapat nih tentang perkembangan kopi spesial kita di Indonesia. Seingat gue juga sebelum berapa waktu itu lu juga sempat cerita ya di story soal fenomena es kopi susu itu Ton. Buat lu itu juga agak kalau disandingkan dengan perkembangan kopi spesial nih menarik gitu kan untuk dibahas. Gue pengen tahu lu tuh gimana nih sekarang perkembangan kopi spesial di Indonesia nih dari lu awal sampai sekarang lah.
Di 3 tahun pertama menurut gue tuh very exciting ya, growth-nya, passion-nya, people-nya juga very conducive ya. Jadi even at that time juga banyak yang suka sharing, banyak yang suka ngumpul, terus pokoknya people were more open and people more open-minded juga gitu about the business and the industry gitu. Tapi like you said gitu, it kind of stopped after that for some reason or another. Like people were not as interested as they were before. Of course ada aja ya gitu, cuman not as much as it used to be before. Nah, if we're saying that people decided to invest their money not in specialty coffee but in es kopi susu, I couldn't care less. Right, because in my opinion, people who decide to go into that business, honestly, they don't really care about specialty coffee. They just want to make money, man. They don't really give a shit, right? Right, because the essence of specialty coffee is purity, right? Yes, we have cappuccinos, we have lattes and stuff like that, but we generally don't mix much more than that, usually, right? We try to portray certain flavors and certain origins for their uniqueness gitu ya kan, and enjoy a beverage that is made with precision, right gitu. So the only person that sells es kopi susu that really cares about coffee is Tio.
Tuku ya, Tio ya.
That's it. Because he for me, in my opinion, is one of the most interesting and one of the guys I respect the most in the industry, because I've met him a few times. I've done some talks with him, and he has always got the same message, and he's always talking about the same purpose. And his story is that he sees es kopi susu as not like a money making phenomenon, but as a gap filler between the traditional Indonesian coffee drinker to specialty coffee drinker gitu. And he's never said that he wants to rule the world with es kopi susu, malah he's the bridge.
Nah, targetnya nanti ada yang lain gitu.
Correct gitu. But he wants
Jadi
to
lu sebenarnya gelisah juga nih Ton, atau resah dengan perkembangan es kopi susu ini sebenarnya?
not in terms of the money they're making, but in terms of the message that they're sending. You see?
Kualitas ini ya yang dibangun
Yeah.
apa? Oke.
It is bringing our industry backwards in terms of what our customers are consuming.
Berarti menurut lu es kopi susu ini malah membuat kita jadi mundur?
As a coffee drinking nation, yes.
Oke.
Right? Because what we're trying to improve the palate and the quality and the in being able to charge more for a more craft or premium product. This is going backwards, right? So it's becoming cheaper,
Tadi dibilang 10.000 gitu ya.
and with promo like almost free.
Cashback gitu.
Oh, Rp1.
Bahkan sampai Rp1. Oke.
Next door to City Walk, there's a right. Once a week they have promo Rp1.
Bakar
Right.
uang.
Right. And yeah, it's not like they're stealing my customers. Of course they are a little bit. Cuman people who come to Common Grounds, they're willing to pay money for a better cup of coffee, for a good cup of coffee, right? Cuman what you're doing is you're cheapening a product, right? You're cheapening a product. It's like there's the same dude that does your job, but he'll do it for 1/10 of your price. How do you feel? You understand what I mean? It's like, oh, you're actually worthless. That is the problem. The image that's being molded into the consumer is that, hey, why are you paying so expensive for this product when I can give it to you for free? Ultimately, as a whole, coffee is going back to being cheap and commodity. Do you understand? That is the problem.
Ya gue pernah tuh lihat di YouTube orang bilang kan ada tuh kopi ya mestinya kan mahal tuh ya, pakai Black Eagle kalau nggak salah ya.
Yeah.
Itu ada yang komentar di YouTube nih, kopi itu kelas bawah katanya dengan mesin seperti itu gitu loh. Jadi emang bener juga Ton, maksudnya citranya jadinya dianggap rendah gitu, citranya ya. Jadi padahal investasi lu gila-gilaan itu, tapi dianggap rendah di benak peminum gitu. Itu kegelisahan lu salah satunya itu ya. Jadi selain kualitas jadi terganggu, terus citranya gitu ya.
Menurun ya.
Jadi ya
I mean,
murah.
if people ask me, is it affecting my business? I'm like, I think ya pasti ada lah gitu. Cuman I'm not worried about it as my business. I'm worried about it for our industry, right? If it's affecting my business a little bit, imagine it affecting other cafes. I have a very good benchmark on the coffee business. Why? Because I have a lot of cafes in different areas, and they're usually prime areas. So the performance of my cafes and my businesses, and I know the numbers, and I can tell easily by walking into a cafe how much money they make a day. It's easy. I do it, right? I know because I've been through all the numbers. I've seen the patterns. If what we are doing, which we are doing good, we're not doing great. Like we're not like millionaires. We're not doing bad. We're doing all right. We can do better. But if we're just doing all right, how much are other people doing? They're doing much worse. That's not good for business. That's not good for our industry, right? Because in our industry, we invest a lot of our time and money for quality. And if a business cannot keep up with that with the revenues and they will not maintain that quality. They'll cut costs, right? And once you cut costs,
Ya, kualitas akhirnya tertaruhkan gitu ya.
and then quality and perception. Customers will come in there and you tell them, oh, this is the best coffee, right? Padahal it's like a below 80 or a Robusta blend or whatever. This is the best coffee. And they don't know better. They go, oh, yeah, it's good. Eventually that pulls our industry down as a whole. Everybody goes down.
Downgrade ya.
Everybody goes down, you see? So this is the problem. We already facing that problem, right? Because the coffee industry is a tough industry to be in. Apalagi now you've got pressure from the back. You got pressure from the front in terms of margin. Now you got pressures in terms of Starbucks and whatnot. And then you've got pressure from the back now from Es Kopi Susu, right? So you're in the middle now. Middle's getting smaller. It's being pressure back and
Ini
forth.
benar-benar tersudut gitu ya. Diserang sana, dijepit sini gitu ya.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough business, right? So basically, I can't care less what people do with their fun money, right? With their Es Kopi Susu for growth, blah, 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 because I can't control it. I learned a long time ago, why do I care about shit that I can't control, right? Ngapain is wasting my time, right? But what I don't agree with, what I don't like with it is what they're doing with it, like how they're gaining their customers, how they're, messing with this perception of this product that I love, right? Like, okay, volume is great, but like I said, if you're going super high volume but super cheap, it doesn't benefit the farmers really. What benefits the farmers is higher price points, higher margins, right? Because then if they see that the margins are slower but they're more volume, then they will just panen shit that they don't need to care about it. They don't need to pick it. They don't need to sort it. They don't care if it's ripe or not. You just go whatever, right? Then use that.
Tapi itu memang terjadi Ton, di hulu juga beberapa pengolah juga bilang, Mas saya sekarang lagi banyak nih permintaan kopi undergrade dibanding special grade dari orang yang sama katanya, atau dari pembeli yang sama yang dulu sebelumnya nyari spesial sekarang malah nyari undergrade. Itu terjadi juga emang di hulu gara-gara Es Kopi Susu ini. Oke Ton, lu punya saran akhirnya kepada orang-orang yang ingin terjun bisnis nih sekarang kan, karena Es Kopi Susu ini harus diakuin Ton, sebelum ada Es Kopi Susu jarang orang kedai kopi punya cabang. Susah banget punya cabang. Lu aja berapa tahun baru punya cabang. Dan pertumbuhannya pun lambat gitu kan. Lambat dibanding dengan yang fenomena Es Kopi Susu ini gitu ya. Sampai ada puluhan, ratusan, padahal mereknya juga baru gitu. Nah mungkin lu ada, maksudnya itu kan akhirnya membuat orang juga jadi pengen lagi untuk buka kedai kopi menarik nih gitu ya. Nah, lu mungkin ada saran buat orang-orang yang pengen buka kopi nih?
Menurut gue sih, lu mau buka kopi kedai specialty atau kedai es kopi susu atau apa, that I have, whatever you want to do,
bebas gitu
you
ya.
do it, right? You do what you think is good. But the number one thing, in my opinion, is if you want to go into a business, you do it like 110%. You understand? Like, that's my advice. My advice is you go hard or you go home.
Totalitas ya.
Right. And, you make mistakes, you mess up, you go again, you go hard. Right. In my opinion, if you want to do things, do it for the right reason. Like, if you want to make Es Kopi Susu because you want to make money, then you do it, right? You go banting harga with everybody else, right? Or you get a lot of money and make a lot very quickly. If you want to do specialty, do it the right way. Do it for the right principles. Do it do it not for yourself, do it for the industry. That's my advice. Because if you're not contributing some way somehow to the industry, then you might as well not do it at all, in my opinion. You've got to follow this formula to be part of the group, and the group isn't just here, it's global. When I travel a lot, fortunately, I do visit a lot of coffee shops more than I do anything, because that's just my passion. I'm very interested, and I often chat with baristas, with coffee owners, and we can speak the same language even if we don't speak the same language. You understand?
Satu frekuensi ya.
Kalau cowok tuh biasanya paling gampang tuh kayak lu kenalan sama teman lain yang cowok kan, pasti lu ngomong paling gampang kayak bola gitu ya kan most often than not tuh kayak something yang bisa
lebih gampang nyambung.
Something a medium to talk about. But for us it's coffee, specialty coffee, and any specialty coffee cafe you visit, you can always talk about specialty
bisa.
coffee, right?
Langsung nyambung.
Ya, langsung nyambung.
I've talked to people for hours in other places. I don't even know the person, right? But talk about coffee in other countries.
Ya kayak Barel ngomong gitu kan kemarin ya. Pas dia bilang gue orang kopi juga nih, kerja di dunia kopi, emang langsung
ada koneksi gitu ya.
Langsung chemistry loh anak sekarang ya.
Chemistry.
Ada chemistry-nya gitu.
Exactly. So I think for one is like I told you before, the industry lagi di pepet lah ya, kiri kanan atas bawah gitu. Gue sebenarnya pengen dari beberapa waktu terakhir, and gue juga ngomong sama beberapa teman-teman yang juga punya coffee shop atau udah lama di industry. Barista has a guild. In the States the roasters have a guild, right? I think coffee shop owners should have a guild. Why? Because we are not in the front, right, or in the back. We're in the middle, gitu. But the fate of our industry depends upon the decisions that we make, gitu. And if we are fractured and we do different things and go different ways, then our industry will eventually be fractured too. But if we go on the same ways and we agree upon certain principles, I think that can only help our industry going forward, menurut gua.
Apa tuh tanggapan teman-teman yang lu ajak?
They agree, yeah. It's just nobody wants to organize it.
Masalahnya itu tadi, siapa yang ngurus ini?
Exactly. Kan? And then politic and everything, right? Tapi menurut gue, and gue selalu bilang dari dulu, ya, gue selalu bilang, okay, but when we first started, I think I told you before, our enemy is not each other, gitu. Kayak sebenarnya musuh gue bukan 15 atau Tanah Merah atau Coffee Smith or whatever, We are not direct competitors, menurut gue, gitu. Our main competitor should be like coffee, right? Because these are the people who have more capital than we do, better, bigger brands, better locations, serve a product that is not as higher quality as us, but people spend the same amount of money for that particular product, right? Our prices are pretty much the same, gitu. So I see them as our competitors, direct competitors. Like that's the giant that we have to slay, and I can't.
David dan Goliath nih ya.
And I can't fucking fight them myself. If we are all kepencar, then we are weaker than when we are together, right? I mean, you just look at the numbers, how many cafes they have and how many cafes we have. It's just apalagi kalau kita lebih fractured lagi, gitu, right? And like I said, Kopi Susu is not my concern because their product pricing is much less than me, gitu. So I don't consider them my competition as much as I do them,
gitu.
as much as I do them, gitu. So in my that's what I feel like. If we can make some sort of guild or organization, non-profit obviously and whatnot, for coffee owners, I think that should be able to help. Especially, I feel that a lot of other new coffee shops or even the ones that have been around that are barely surviving, they could probably use some business advice from people who
bisa saling berbagi, ngasih saran dan sebagainya gitu ya.
And not as much as kayak dalam detail, cuman secara teori.
Ya
kan?
Say insight gitu ya.
Yeah, because we've been around for 5 years, not long but not short, and we've learned a lot of things. And to people who come to me, talk to me about the coffee business, I'm happy to share, like I'm on this podcast.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not just that. When I do talks and everything, I'm very quite transparent, unless it's very sensitive data that is no purpose to share. But I don't purposely hide anything either, because I think as an industry, the more coffee shops that close is worse. It's just bad, right? And if your business is not good, you're cutting costs. And that's bad for the industry too. I've seen it.
Jadi yang lu lihat juga sekarang emang kita ada kemungkinan mengarah ke sana ya perkembangannya ini ya. Jadi kalau terlalu larut terhadap permintaan es kopi susu, itu yang lo khawatirkan tadi tuh, terlalu banyak yang dikorbankan akhirnya gitu ya. Ternyata panjang juga nih Ton. Kita udah hampir 1 jam 20 menit Ton.
Makanya setiap kali gua ketemu Ninus juga apa.
Wah, omong-omong nih, lu lagi nyiapin buku katanya Ton ya? Lagi nyiapin buku nih ya?
Gue lagi nyiapin pikiran gue, bro. Lalu gue kumpulin.
Oke, jadi kalau buat pendengar nih jangan lupa Aston nih mau bikin buku loh ternyata. Kapan? Nggak tahu. Nggak tahu.
Hopefully sometime soon.
Sibuk bapak ini gitu kan. Oke Ton, gue terima kasih Ton ya atas kehadiran lu nih Ton ya, sudah mau berbagi, dan gue tau lu pasti pengen banyak cerita gitu. Tapi untungnya lu nulis buku kan, jadi dia bisa puas berbagi cerita di buku itu kan. Karena emang 1 jam 20 menit ternyata udah lama juga. Terima kasih Ton.
Sama-sama.
Mungkin terakhir lu ada mau yang tambahkan mungkin? Ada yang mau
closing statement?
Ada ketinggalan mungkin masih. Aduh gue pengen ngomongin segemes nih ya.
Bisa sampai malam kita.
Malam. Terlalu banyak gemes dia ternyata.
Mungkin ada sesi-sesi berikutnya.
Boleh.
Kita
Diundang aja lagi.
Oke, siap.
Kalau ada topik yang interesting boleh. Atau bawa another speaker would be good too.
Oke. Kita adu nih ya berarti ya.
Iya. Kita berbagi, bro.
Gue maunya ngadu Ton.
Adu juga seru sih. Hebat deh.
Oke, demikian perbincangan saya dengan Aston Utan yang mengupas bagaimana dia berkecimpung dalam dunia bisnis gitu ya. Oke, terima kasih Ton.
Thank you.
Terima kasih telah mendengarkan Bincang Kopi. Sampai bertemu lagi di episode berikutnya.